benefits, I think, coming out of this for families and for family relationships.
You're a pediatrician. You deal with all the little ones, but not just the little ones, right? You also deal with their parents. Just set the stage for us. I mean, what's going on in your world? How are parents reacting to all this? How are kids feeling? What are you experiencing?
Well, I think this is a new way of living for all of us. I mean, parents aren't used to being home 24/7 with their kids. Kids are out of school. Many parents are working from home. Everybody's adjusting to living in one small living space without a break from each other.
Right.
So,
Right.
As a pediatrician, I deal with both the physical health and also the mental health of my families. And it seems that these days I'm working more on the mental health and helping families all get on the same schedule, sit down and communicate with each other, and trying to focus on the positive with my families every day in the office.
And I have loved seeing the pictures of you and your family with your boys. Can you talk to us about what you guys have done? Not to put your family on blast.
Definitely. No, that's perfectly fine. So my boys are actually, I have 2 teenagers and a 5-year-old. So that's been really interesting. And although my teenagers might roll their eyes when I say, hey, we're playing Silly Street or Candyland tonight, it's actually so much fun to get down to that level and get back to your kindergarten self and play some of those games for the younger kids. We've also done a lot of backyard outdoor time. Luckily, we're in Los Angeles where the weather has been great lately. We also have been having these family meetings where we can really, talk about what's going on. And I let my kids voice their opinion. So my 12-year-old made his argument on why he should be able to play video games now on school days, which has never been allowed before in our house. And you know what? I think that's okay, as long as they're also, doing their chores and helping out and getting along with each other and getting their schoolwork done. I'm laxing up on things that I used to be really strict on, right? We're all making compromises these days.
But you know what? I think that people need to actually hear that it's okay to do that. Even my sister-in-law, right? So my sister-in-law sent me a picture of her living room with my brother and my 2 nieces. And, there are toys everywhere. The baby's got half her clothes on, the older one, it's like mayhem. But I think that you as a pediatrician giving us almost permission, and not to rest this solely on you, right? There are a lot of experts saying this, that this is a new normal, and perhaps things need to change in terms of how we've done things. It's okay to be lax in certain areas. It's okay to make adjustments in our schedule. It doesn't have to be, and maybe shouldn't be, exactly what it was like before all of this came along. And I really appreciate you actually talking about that, because I think it puts a lot of parents' maybe minds at ease,
Exactly. And I've had to sit down with many moms and say, it's okay if your house isn't organized and put away every day. We have to let some of that go, because we can't do everything, and all get along.
Those are excellent points, Dr. Tanya.
You have 3 kids, you're doing homeschooling, you're like at your last resort, you're pulling out your hair, and really your significant other wants to have sex. Are you kidding me? So here you are, sometimes stuck with your significant other, but you have your kids. Are you guys having sex?
Well, that's what I want to know.
That's all everybody's talking about is sex, and whether we're having it or not.
It's almost this anxiety about that ain't important no more, right?
A lot of people, I think, are having a little bit of fear and anxiety and performance issues. And the reason being, and the reason being because they're overwhelmingly anxious about all the information and the lack of control, but it also leads to death. You know what I mean? So and there's a lot of unknowns, especially when it comes to pregnancy, also in gynecology. Can it live in the sperm? Does the coronavirus live in the sperm? Does it live in the ejaculate? Does it live in our vaginal secretions? Can we transmit it vertically?
Evelyn, what you're saying is something I see in my practice even before the coronavirus. Is what is the impact of stress on our sexuality? And I feel that women are always hit harder by this, that if we are not able to sort of be in our minds and we're not feeling calm, and if women are always, multitasking in their heads, it's very hard for people to stay focused and feel sexual. Another thing that women don't talk enough about is masturbation, right? There are multiple ways to have orgasm, and
That's
true.
true.
The the sales of sex toys has gone up, but then people are worried about, oh my God, is the Amazon box going to have, or whatever box I'm ordering, is it going to have the virus on top of it? So you can see why this is becoming so complicated, because we don't want to touch each other. If you have somebody that has to go outside the house, or does my partner have, exposure to coronavirus? So we're just in our head. We're thinking too much. There's too much noise.
Since COVID-19 started, these states developed 0 additional bad health behaviors. We looked actually by state at the percentage of respondents who have developed 0 additional bad behaviors. The top 5 states are where we see some of the lowest levels of physical well-being overall. Number 1 was Mississippi, Alabama, South Dakota, Iowa, and Nebraska. Across these states, 48% or more have developed 0 additional bad health behaviors since COVID-19 started. What we know about these states is that 2 of these states fall in the bottom quintile of physical well-being. Because we were asking about health behavior change, could be that where we see those states typically fall in the bottom quintile of physical well-being, that these are just individuals continuing to maintain bad behaviors. So it may not be, in fact, an indication of things getting better, and maybe an indication of things staying the same, at least in certain cases.
In medicine, we always say you should take a test if you know what you're going to do with it.
Testing, is a big deal, right? I think part of the uncertainty that we've all been having, in addition to not being able to reach out and touch one another and not knowing what's going on, is many of us can't even figure out if we're sick, if we're not, what's going on. So like Evelyn, okay, you're still seeing patients in the office. Right. You're obviously wearing your mask. Yes. Are you testing people? And how's it going for you?
Well, we were at OBGYN office, and as a matter of fact, before we came on, I was telling that we do have our first positive COVID pregnant lady, and she's probably one of many. But here's my thing. Okay, first of all, just because you're tested today, you might be negative today, but you might be negative tomorrow. So that's why I have that stipulation. I always tell my patients the same thing. Assume that you're positive, use your caution.
That's right.
What do you think,
it makes
Sue?
a lot of sense.
I know. What do you do, Jen? And what do you do, Sue?
Yeah, I think that's such a great idea. As a psychiatrist, I'm dealing with the anxiety of people when they can't get tested. And, we were talking about this idea of information as being soothing, as being comforting, as being reassuring. Right. And what's interesting to me about the coronavirus is that we're fighting with battles on 2 fronts, right? One is what's going on in the external world, that we can't get the testing and we're experiencing symptoms and all of the things that are the losses, with unemployment and financial losses and health losses. But then we're also dealing with the battle in our own mind, which is I need information. I need certainty. I want to know if I'm positive or not. Just this morning, I was talking to a patient and she was telling me that she had symptoms. Her brother independently had symptoms. Her father might have had symptoms. And all of them at some point want to see each other. She's like, I'm a single woman. I'm in my apartment and I need family contact. And my parents are inviting me. They live about an hour away and they're saying, come on, enough is enough. Just come back home. And it's such a tricky situation because he had a history of cancer. He's immunocompromised. And the 3 of them are saying to themselves, if we could only get tested, if we can only find out, we just want reassurance to know, do we have it or not, even for peace of mind. So
that's true. And Sue, not to interrupt you, but you're exactly right in that. The last point I wanted to make on the testing subject is you're totally right that in many cases we're not necessarily going to do anything different if somebody is coping with the symptoms well enough at home anyway. However, we know that one of the reasons we can't really figure out the death rate for coronavirus is because we have no idea of the penetrance. We have no idea really what the denominator, the number is that we're dealing with. What does this mean for voting and where do we go from here? What do we do? There's so many issues coming up about, the pandemic and really how this is going to change our country's future. And, one of the things that's come up a lot has been about, politics. I mean, politics for so many reasons. Okay, let's just be clear. But things like even voting by mail. What do you think about that?
Well, probably we're going to be donning masks for a long, long time, and I think that it's going to be very logical. If you don a mask to go to your supermarket, then you don a mask to go and vote. I think that it's very important that everybody who has the privilege of voting to vote. If you can do it by mail, do it by mail. If you're one of those vulnerable populations, right, that you have pre-existing conditions like my parents do, I would want them to, cast their vote by mail. It's not like it's never existed before.
That's true. That's true. You're right about that.
I think that we're just really complicating something that is really uncomplicated.
I think what this will do is what it's done in so many other sectors of our lives. It will force the progression of technology. For instance, we onboarded 25 surgeons to a HIPAA compliant platform. It would have taken us months before. Right. That is the kind of rapid increase in technology that this COVID business is going to force in all sectors. We haven't gotten voting right for a long time.
True.
Not the political system, but the actual physical logistics.
Right.
Has not
counting
been right
the votes
for a long time.
Right. Voting machines.
And those machines that we use look like they were created in the 1960s.
Because
they were. So I feel like if we are driving satellites out past Pluto, which is no longer a planet, can we please find a secure way to vote in a modern way? And maybe this will force the technology.